What if the questions we ask about the future reveal more about our limits than about reality? What if the way we imagine eternity is shaped more by what we know now than what truly awaits? And what if Jesus' answer about life after death challenges not just our curiosity, but our entire perspective? In Mark 12:18-27, a group called the Sadducees approaches Jesus. This group is known for one key belief: they do not believe in the resurrection. For them, life ends at death. There is no continuation, no future existence beyond the physical. So when they come to Jesus, they are not seeking understanding, they are setting a trap. They present a scenario based on a law from Moses, a law about family responsibility. If a man dies without children, his brother is to marry the widow and carry on the family line. They construct a story: a woman is married to a man, he dies without children, then his brother marries her. He also dies. This continues, 7 brothers in total. Each marries the woman. Each dies without leaving children. Finally, the woman dies. Then they ask the question, at the resurrection, whose wife will she be since all 7 were married to her? It sounds clever, structured, logical, but it is based on a flawed assumption. Because they are trying to understand a different reality using the rules of this one, they are projecting earthly systems onto something that goes beyond them. And this is where Jesus responds with clarity. Are you not in error because you do not know the scriptures or the power of God? This is direct, not harsh but clear. He identifies the root of the issue, not lack of intelligence, but lack of understanding. They do not truly grasp what they are discussing. Then he explains, when the dead rise, they will neither marry nor be given in marriage. They will be like the angels in heaven. This is a shift, a complete shift. Because it shows that the structure of relationships in the next life is not a continuation of the current system. It is something different, not less meaningful, but differently defined. And this is where the deeper message begins. Because the Sadducees assumed that resurrection, if it existed, would simply extend the current world. Same rules, same relationships, same structure, just continuing. But Jesus reveals that resurrection is not continuation. It is transformation, a new reality, a different order, one that is not limited by the structures we know. And this challenges something in us. Because we often try to understand the unknown by comparing it to the known. We try to fit the future into familiar categories, but some realities cannot be fully understood that way. They require a shift in perspective, a willingness to accept that what lies ahead may not follow the same patterns. Jesus continues, now about the dead rising. Have you not read in the book of Moses, in the account of the burning bush, how God said to him, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? Then he makes the point, he is not the God of the dead, but of the living. You are badly mistaken. This is powerful. Because Jesus is not just correcting their scenario, he is addressing their belief, their denial of resurrection. He points to something they already accept, the words of Moses. And within those words, he reveals a truth they have overlooked. God speaks of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob not as figures of the past, but as present, living, connected. This suggests continuity, not of the same structure, but of life itself. That death does not end existence. That relationship with God continues. That life, in its deeper sense, is not confined to the physical, and this changes everything. Because it shifts the focus from the mechanics of life after death to the reality of life beyond death. The Sadducees were focused on logistics, on how relationships would work, on how systems would continue. But Jesus redirects them to something more fundamental, that life continues, that God is present, and that reality is not limited to what we see. This passage invites us to reconsider how we think about the future, because it is easy to ask questions that are shaped by current experience, but those questions may not lead to understanding. They may only reveal the limits of our perspective. The Sadducees' question was not wrong in form, but it was limited in scope. It assumed that everything must function as it does now, and that assumption prevented them from seeing the bigger picture. Jesus does not just answer their question, he expands their view. He shows that reality is larger than their framework, and that understanding requires openness. This is a key insight, because growth often comes not from having all the answers, but from recognizing the limits of our current understanding, from being willing to see beyond what is familiar. from accepting that there are dimensions of truth we do not fully grasp yet. And this applies not only to the future, but to how we live now. Because if life continues beyond what we see, then what we do now matters differently. Our priorities shift, our focus changes. We begin to see beyond immediate outcomes and into lasting meaning. Jesus' statement about being like the angels is not about becoming something else. It is about a different kind of existence, one not defined by earthly structures, but by a deeper connection, a different order of life. And this reminds us that not everything we value now will carry forward in the same way. Some things are temporary, contextual, designed for this life, but others are lasting, essential, connected to something greater. And part of wisdom is learning to distinguish between the two. The Sadducees focused on structure. Jesus focused on substance. They focused on roles. He focused on reality. And this shift is what brings clarity. Because when we focus only on structure, we can miss the essence. But when we understand the essence, structure becomes secondary. The essence here is life, continuing, connected to God, beyond death. And this truth reshapes everything. It removes fear, it brings perspective, it adds depth to our decisions. Because life is not just about what we see, it is part of something ongoing, something meaningful, something that does not end at the boundaries we perceive. And this is why Jesus addresses their misunderstanding so directly. Because their belief limited their vision. And limited vision leads to limited understanding. But expanded vision opens the door to deeper truth. So as we reflect on this passage, we are invited to ask, are we trying to understand everything through the lens of what we already know? Or are we open to a reality that goes beyond it? Are we holding tightly to familiar structures? Or are we willing to see beyond them? Because sometimes the greatest barrier to understanding is not lack of information, but attachment to assumption. And when we release those assumptions, we begin to see more clearly. Not everything, but enough to move forward. With trust, with openness, with a deeper sense of perspective. The Sadducees asked a question to challenge, but Jesus responded with truth that transforms, not just about the future, but about how we understand reality itself. And that is where the real impact lies, not in answering every question, but in shifting how we see. Thank you for watching this video. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to like, follow the channel, and share this video with someone who may need a new perspective on life, faith, and what lies beyond today.